What is up, harvesters? Welcome back to the subscribers, and if you're new here, welcome to Hobby Harvest. My name is Ken. So today we are going to go over 8 deer hunting myths. Now, this season will be my 26th deer hunting season, and at some point in that career I probably believed every single one of these, but all of them are absolutely false, and I'll explain why. So we're going to kick it off with number 1, which is peeing in the woods. So the myth is you pee in the woods, the deer can smell it, they don't come anywhere near it. This is absolutely false. In fact, I pee on the dirt underneath my mock scrapes. It seems to help, maybe. I don't know if it helps or not, but it definitely does not scare them away. Also, I'll tell you guys another quick story. The last buck I shot last deer season, I was walking into the stand, pulled a chip on a camera on the way in. I get to the ladder, and of course, nature calls. So I do the deed there right at the bottom of the ladder, climb up the ladder, get situated. 15 minutes later, I have a buck standing within 10 yards of that ladder and completely oblivious that anything was going on. He didn't smell anything, didn't react at all until I let loose on him. And so just absolutely go pee in the woods if you gotta pee. Don't hold it, don't use the bottle and carry that in and out. That's just gross. You can pee in the woods. The deer don't mind. They're not going to smell it. Pee is pee. And so we'll get on to number 2. So the next one is the barren doe myth. So the myth is that you have this doe out there by herself. She doesn't have any fawns with her. She's a barren doe. We need to wipe her out. We got to get her out of the herd. She's just taking up space and not producing any fawns for the herd. Well, this is false. They've actually conducted studies with this. Does are in pens. They produce all the way up until they die. So what you're actually seeing out there is most likely a 1.5-year-old doe who was a fawn last year, who just did not get bred during the second rut during the beginning of December, and she's just now in her 1.5-year-old season, and she just has no fawns with her yet. Now, the other thing that could happen is it could also be a young doe who just is not experienced enough at keeping her fawns alive to maturity. They may have died of predation, they may have gotten hit by a car, whatever. We do know that the more mature a doe gets, the more experience she gets at keeping her fawns alive. And if she has triplets or twins, she separates them more. So if she loses one, maybe that predator doesn't find the other one right away. So there's a lot of studies been done on this. Does do not go barren until they die, so don't worry about that. If you see a lone doe by herself, she's most likely just a young doe. She will be a good producer for you in the future. So number 3, I want to talk about creating buck bedding. So this is kind of a half myth. You can create buck bedding, but only if you take care of doe bedding and doe food sources first. So you need to make sure you do all of the other habitat improvements first before you worry about putting in buck bedding. Those does and those fawns are going to take their space first, and then those bucks, you can put them on whatever area you have left. So you really got to take care of those does and fawns first, and then worry about buck bedding after that. You're going to learn about that in more of the videos on my channel if you'd like, but we're going to get into number 4. Number 4 is cover scents. Now, the myth here is that you can just douse yourself in all of the cover scents they sell at the store, and you can walk right through a bedding area with deer bedded in and they're not even going to smell you. Now, this is not true whatsoever. You can be doused in every single cover scent there is, and if your wind and your thermals are wrong and they're blowing right at that deer's nose, it's going to smell you. You're not covering your breath, and maybe you perspired walking in, whatever. You're not covering all of your scent. Now, these do help a little, so I'm not saying that you don't use them, but what you really need to make sure you're doing is watching your wind, watching your thermals. You can be the biggest, stinkiest guy in the woods. If you have your wind and thermals going the right way for you, they aren't going to smell you because your scent just simply is not going to them. So you want to worry about that wind and thermal a lot more than those cover scents, but by all means, you can still use those. They do help just a little bit, but not 100%. So number 5, I want to talk about the myth of the summer buck, as I call it. So guys, this time of year, they're getting out there, they got their cameras out there. It's nice to watch those bucks starting to grow those velvet antlers, watching the fawns grow up and everything else that's going on out in the woods this time of year. And guys are looking, how old do you think this one is? What do you think he's going to end up growing into? They already got him on the wall. They already got him in the freezer. And the sad news to that is that where bucks are this time of year is not where they're going to be in the fall. So bucks in the summer want habitat that is high canopy that is shady and cool for them, but open so that they don't bump their velvet on it. So that is the exact opposite of what they want in the fall. So once they get hard horned, they're looking for that thickest part of the woods where all that nice browse is, that nice food source, whatever. That's where they're going to be in the fall, and that is not where they are this time of year. So just make sure that you have those thick areas of your property as well. But just because you have a buck coming on camera every time during the daylight this time of year, don't put them on the wall already. There's going to be a lot of changes happening between now and hunting season, and they will completely change their movement patterns by then. So number 6, I want to talk about a myth that if somebody walks by your stand, they completely ruin that area, and you might as well just leave right now because you're not going to see anything anyway. Now this isn't 100% true. Now yeah, if they're coming through there banging pots and pans, yeah, you might as well leave. But if it's another hunter coming through and they're acting like a hunter does, they're being quiet, they're not making noise, they're controlling their scent, all of those other things, just stay there. It's okay. You do still have a chance to see deer. Now, again, a story I have this year from hunting was I was walking into my stand with another guy when I peed at the ladder. He was on his way to his stand. We just kind of come in on the same path. Like I said, I was only in that stand for 15 minutes. That other guy probably was not even in his stand yet when I shot the buck that I shot. So that guy walked through the area, I walked through the area. It was only within 15 minutes, and that buck was right underneath that stand. Depending on the area you're hunting, if you're hunting in a thick area, these deer will just kind of slip in through those thick spots. They didn't see you, you didn't see them, and so it didn't spook them away. So it does not ruin your stand if somebody walks by you. So number 7 is that a full moon ruins your daytime hunt. So this myth is that if there is a full moon, the deer are running around like crazy all night long because it's bright out, they can see better. They're so tired they lay down during the day and you're never going to see movement. This is actually false. So although deer do move more during a full moon, as all animals do, you'll see a whole lot more dead animals on the highway the next morning after a full moon. But what's happening here is these deer are running around because it's so light out, yes, but because they're a prey animal, they are worried that the predators can see them, the predators can see them, predators are chasing them, and so on. They are just running around trying to stay alive. So as we normally see deer in the thickest part of the woods because they like to stay hidden from the predators, they also like to use darkness to stay hidden from those predators as well. So during a full moon, they can't do that. They have to run around more. What ends up happening though is they burn a ton of calories. They need to replenish those calories, and they'll tend to do that more during the daylight. So you will see more daylight movement also during a full moon because those deer need to go replenish those calories that they burned up running away from predators all night long. They actually maybe see the daylight as sort of like their resting period, that they can finally get on a food source and not be worried about being chased off by predators at that time of the year when we have a full moon. Now, lastly, I want to get into number 8, and that is that your stand needs to be 20, 30, 40, whatever feet off of the ground. And that is absolutely false. This stand right here is a whole 4 feet off the ground. Now, what you are more looking to do is what this stand is right here. You can see the bottom of it is completely hidden by switchgrass, and it is built into this tree line so that the deer cannot see me getting into it, getting out of it, and they can't even really tell that it's there at this point because it's just a blob in the tree line that is just there, and they're used to it being there. So what you're really looking to do when you're putting in stands or blinds is to make sure that they are hidden more than just feet off the ground. The majority of my stands are 8 to 10 feet off the ground. I utilize things like tree edges like this, switchgrass to hide them, other thick cover beneath them to hide the legs of them. But also what I'm trying to do is just make sure that they are more hidden, and that what is behind them from the deer's perspective is going to hide that stand so that it's not just a big box out in the middle of an open field. That's definitely what you don't want to do. Now, I utilize topography, everything else that I can to take advantage of that. You really got to look at your specific situation to see what's going to work best for you. If you're in an area with wood lines and stuff like this, just plug it into that wood line, get a couple feet off the ground, whatever is going to give you a decent shot, and that's all you're really looking for. And then of course, just make sure you're taking care of that wind and those thermals. A lot of guys want to get that high 30, 40, whatever feet off the ground to deal with their wind and thermals a lot easier so that the deer don't smell you. You do not need to get that high off if you are properly planning your stand locations with where the predominant winds are coming from. Now this stand here being only 4 feet off the ground, the only window in it is on the front here. It is completely enclosed in. So even if we do have a slight breeze out here, a lot of the scent stays inside the stand itself. We're not sitting in like an open tree on like a platform stand where all of our wind is coming and crossing our entire body and taking our scent and throwing it out into the woods. We are really tucked out of the wind in there, so we aren't actually projecting that much scent out into the woods, out onto the food plot that's out here and whatever in the area. So these enclosed blinds are actually a lot better for dealing with scent than being on that platform. But I get it, you got what you got, you put them out there in the woods, you gotta hunt them. Just keep in mind that those things are a lot more important. Your wind, your thermals, way more important than getting X amount of feet off of the ground. If you use topography to your advantage, you just dump it off the back of a hill or let it rise up over that hill in the morning. If you want to learn more about that, I got other videos of that. If you guys do feel like you got some value out of this video, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you guys have other myths you think I should cover, leave them in the comments section down below. And if you really liked this video, YouTube thinks you're going to like this one too. So go check that out and I'll catch you guys on the next one.